cannabis law in England, what changed in 2018. When people talk about cannabis law in England, a lot of people still don't fully understand what actually changed in 2018 and what didn't. So I thought I'd do a video talking a little bit about the history, my experience around that time and where things are now. I'd already been involved in cannabis activism and education for years before 2018, especially around radio, patient support, and the wider cannabis community. Back then, a lot of the conversations around cannabis was still very underground, even though more and more people were starting to stand up and speak openly about the medical side of cannabis and how much it was helping them. Around that time, I was involved with radio shows where people would phone in and talk about their experiences with using cannabis for things like cancer, multiple sclerosis, Lyme's disease, autoimmune conditions and chronic pain, arthritis and many others health issues. And I think for a lot of people, hearing real stories from real patients started changing perspectives. Then in 2018, the law in England changed to allow specialist doctors to prescribe cannabis-based medicinal products in certain circumstances. That was a major moment because for the first time, medical cannabis was legally recognised in the UK in a very limited way. But at the same time, I think it's important to say that although the law changed, access has still remained very difficult for a lot of people. Many patients are struggling to cover the cost, the availability, or the process of actually getting the prescription. So although 2018 was a very important step, it didn't suddenly create full access for everybody overnight. What's interesting though is that during those years there were a lot of activists, patients, campaigners, organisations and communities all pushing for change in different ways. I was involved with some of that myself. Though through activism, radio education, and eventually through setting up my own cannabis club in Spain. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to make this video is because people often oversimplify cannabis law and cannabis culture, when actually there's been a very long history behind where things are now. Eventually, I'd also like to do videos talking about cannabis law in Spain and how the systems in England and Spain differ from each other, because both systems have their positives and their negatives. But for me personally, seeing the shift from the older underground days to where things are now has been very, very interesting. Because cannabis conversations today are far more open than they were when I first became involved in this space. Thank you.